everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Eggs, the podcast. Today's special guest is William Milliken, the CEO and founder of Swoop Scoop. How are you, William?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing today?
Thrilled to have you, dude. This is going to be a fun conversation. Looking forward to it. Thanks for making time.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
You want to take a minute or so, just give a brief overview of who you are, what you do, how you got into what you do?
So I actually own a portfolio of home service companies. My background was in digital marketing, and I realized I make way more money if I own the companies rather than just doing the marketing for the companies. So over the last couple of years, I started partnering with operators. So I partnered with a guy that was an electrician for 30 plus years. We basically started that company with $1,000, hit over $1 million in sales within the first 6 months or so. And then I had a friend of mine from school, wanted to start a business with me because he saw the success for that, but he didn't really have any skills. He wasn't an HVAC. He wasn't a plumber. He didn't have any lawn care skills. He couldn't back up a trailer or anything like that. We ended up coming up with an idea to start a pooper scooper business. And kind of similar to the electrical business, we started that. I didn't really have much expectations, and that started taking off like crazy. Then I started, I think, a garage door company a year after that or so. But all kind of following the same trajectory, just partnering with operators. I handle the marketing and kind of the back end systems, and they do the ops, and it's been working pretty well so far.
Yeah, when I saw your portfolio, I was like, this is an interesting way to make money, and everyone needs a service. And it made me think of that movie. I'm sure you get this all the time. The poo be gone, that spray. There was a movie about 3-4 years ago about a guy that invented some spray for dog poo, and it just disappeared in his yard.
Oh, really? And interesting. I got to watch out for that. It could put me out of business.
It's a comedy, but the instant I saw it, I was like, he made, like in the movie, he was the richest guy on earth because he came up with this product, and like you came up with the product and you're doing it. It's just not a spray. It doesn't just disappear. Someone comes and takes care of it. This is a really interesting, I love it. That's why I was like, yeah, come on the show, because it's thinking outside of the box, and you're creating a service that people need and don't want to do. So it's a win-win for everyone. Mm-hmm. Can you maybe talk about like the first, I don't know, year of doing this and building the business and marketing for it?
So the first year coming into it, I had experience in marketing. I had some operational experience, but we had no idea what it actually took to do the pooper scooper business. So my partner at the time, I think he literally, he didn't have a dog, so he was out practicing scooping up rocks in his backyard to try to figure out how long it took to scoop up each yard, how much time we were going to be spending each yard. So getting started was kind of rough. We had literally no idea what we were doing. Found some good software that was built specifically for the industry, so we were kind of able to reverse engineer our business around how that software was set up, as far as taking gate photos when we leave so the customers know their dogs aren't getting let out, using disinfectant to make sure we're not spreading parvo or other diseases from yard to yard. So we kind of reverse engineered it from there. And as far as getting customers, I honestly didn't take the business that seriously at first. I was going to be happy to make an extra $1,000 a month or something. So I made my business partner go out and knock on doors and put up door hangers until he got the first probably 10, 15 customers. And I was like, okay, maybe we got something here. And when I started putting some money behind advertising, things took off like crazy. We went from 15, 20 to probably 300 customers in the first 3 months.
Wow. So that's
one of the things I think that is exciting about your journey too, or, especially this part of your portfolio is, you really identified one of those things that nobody wants to do. And I spent a lot of time when I was much younger working for a guy named Don Aslett. And Don Aslett was known as the world's #1 cleaning expert. Basically, in college, he started a janitorial company, just cleaning houses, got a bunch of college guys together, and they would go and clean houses, clean carpets, do all that kind of stuff, move furniture around, work on plumbing, scrub toilets, all those things. And it was all that stuff that he didn't want to do, or that nobody else wanted to do, but he was willing to just kind of do it, right? And I think maybe it's just ego, but I think there's a lot of people that stay away from these kinds of things because, maybe they're a little unsavory or whatever. But I mean, in terms of I don't know, I think I watched this video about you, and I think you literally called it a money printing machine. I mean, that's what this is. And, to finish the story on Don Aslett, he ended up, turning his cleaning company into a multinational cleaning organization, this enormous company today. And, but it was just that. It started with just doing the thing nobody else wanted to do.
Mhm.
He was a professional toilet cleaner. So I think that the story is really inspiring for that reason. And we were talking a little bit before the show that I was playing this video of you being interviewed and talking about your service with my 14-year-old. And he's kind of an entrepreneurial kid. He's always looking for a way to make a couple bucks or whatever. And so we were talking about, what could you do this summer to go make some money?
Mhm.
And we were talking about kind of this business, and I was just looking, showing him this. And of course, his first attitude was like, I don't want to do that. I don't even scoop my own dogs. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think that, I guess the point is, or the moral of this story is that, being able to identify the niche, even if it's maybe not, I don't know. I don't think anybody goes, out there and goes, man, if I could just make $1 gazillion, scoop and poop. This is my passion. I just have a passion for fecal material.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's
There's
it.
got to be that guy, Ryan. There's that guy.
Yeah, I guess maybe there's somebody.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I want that guy in my yard. But nonetheless, I mean, the point is you found the thing that even though it's not sexy, it's something that people really want.
Mhm.
It's a service that people really want to avoid. And from what I learned in this video about you, price wise and things like that, you seem to be priced in a way that, even lower income folks could afford this if it's something that they just want to take off their plate.
Mhm.
So maybe to get around to asking a question here, let's talk a little bit about just sort of, I guess, the early days of the business. I mean, you did a lot of door knocking, you did a lot of things like that, but in terms of like spinning up the operational stuff, and I know that you already had a little bit of experience in doing this. So maybe you have to go further back into your memory banks to kind of get to answers of this, but like, how did you know what to do next? I mean, I think it's easy for me to tell my 14-year-old, go scoop the neighbor's yard, but like, how does that turn into like a real business?
Yeah. So for a lot of new businesses, typically the bottleneck is going to be customer acquisition because they don't know how to go out and advertise and get customers and things like that. We ended up not having that issue. So the bottleneck was we got to go buy a bunch of trucks. We got to figure out how to hire a bunch of people. So it was a whole different process. I was just out buying $2,000-$3,000 trucks and just hiring my friends and family to go out and scoop. So it definitely looks a lot different than it does now. We have a whole like learning management software, and we have HR team and management teams to do all that. But yeah, when we were first getting started, it was kind of the wild west, pretty crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure going from 15 customers to 300 customers kind of in a week, you're scrambling to just get people to go out and do it, let alone you probably almost had to pitch in and go out yourself and do it, I'm sure. But just finding the logistics of like getting your trucks lined up, getting HR policies in place, and actually hiring people at scale, that's not easy.
No, it was definitely an interesting process. And then I think the second year we went from 300 to like 950 customers. So I think at one point we had like 7 personal loans on trucks, just trying to get stuff going before we were able to get SBA loans on some of those things. But it was definitely just trying to figure out what the next bottleneck is within the business. So whether that's labor, whether it's customer acquisition, whether it's capital, and just kind of breaking that bottleneck like one step at a time and anticipating what the next issue is going to be. So luckily with this business, it's a subscription-based business. So if you get your math right, you can kind of see what your customer acquisition cost is. You can see what your lifetime value is. You can kind of see about how many customers each employee can handle, which is between 125 and 150. So you can really mathematically kind of figure out where to go next within this business once we kind of figured out the basics after that first year. So it made it a lot easier to start scaling up after that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. One of the things I caught too from this video I watched where they're talking about you, and I guess maybe we should give the guy a little credit. Was it Flip Up? Is that the name of his channel? Upflip.
Yeah.
And he did a really thorough job of talking about your business. I assume he does this with a lot of folks, and it is very cool insight into the business. I appreciate the way he was doing it.
Yeah.
But one of the things I noticed or that I thought was particularly interesting was just how serious you were taking it, and to use my Aslet analogy, he did something very similar, which was figuring out what the best tools for the job are. And so it's not just going to your neighbor's house and scooping. I mean, everybody's probably got a little garden shovel and a trash bag or something. Like there's a way that you could do this, for nothing. But even buying the best equipment or, what you guys have now vetted into the best equipment. I mean, we're talking $150 to start up,
Yeah.
And so, but I wonder if you would talk a little bit about just sort of the process of making the decisions around the equipment you're using. Like, I mean, obviously you must have tested and tried a bunch of things and then narrowed down. And, so maybe you could talk a little bit about just sort of that experience and trying to now refine a business that's starting to get off the ground.
Yeah. I mean, even now we're continuing to refine stuff. Now that the industry is becoming more and more mainstream, people are coming up with new tools and equipment equipment, so we're always testing stuff out. But at the beginning, it was definitely just a lot of trial and error. Especially with this job, if you're doing the same thing, it's a pretty repetitive job. You're making the same motions. So if you don't have the right equipment, you can really damage your wrist or damage your back. So we were able to get feedback from my business partner that was in the field most of the time at that time. And then feedback from the employees, what's working, what's not working, doing time tests, seeing how fast we can clean a yard with one set of equipment versus another. And just really trying to put math to it, right? Because if you have the real numbers, you can make actual decisions about what's going to be better or not better. So,
well, and I think that methodical approach, I think, is what I'm so impressed by with this. Because again, I feel like this is one of those businesses people could just kind of discount or would call kind of a throwaway biz or whatever, But like the way that you approached it, and I mean, I don't know if this is what you're looking into, but the Azlet model concluded with he opened up Don Azlet's cleaning centers, which sell all the best cleaning supplies that he bought over the years, and then they sell it on QVC, and it's a gazillion-dollar deal. So, once you get that scoop figured out, I mean, just turning your handle around and making it a custom deal, QVC might be your spot.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I think that approach may not come natural to every small business owner or every person who's sort of aspiring to be a startup founder or, wants to chase down an idea that's in their head. So can you talk about, I mean, is there a key point or something in your career that you can point to where you sort of learned this methodical approach to, developing business? Is that something you're modeling that somebody else did for you or just, trial and error over many years?
Yeah, I'd say a lot of trial and error. Probably one of the only people I follow online is Hormozy. So he talks about kind of these ratios, like your customer acquisition costs and lifetime value and all that kind of stuff. So I think at one point I literally watch every one of his videos and figure out how I could implement it into our business. But really, at the end of the day, pretty much all businesses are just a math equation. How much can you get customers for? How much are those customers going to be worth? And then, just dialing things back in, like your operations, how long it takes to clean, things like that.
Well, and I wonder too if maybe some of it comes from your marketing background, which is that I run an ad agency, marketing agency, and one of the things that's pretty common, especially in modern marketing, if you're doing social media or any kind of digital marketing, is you do a lot of this iteration, right? You try, fail, try, win, and then go forward, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if your experience as a marketer sort of helped assist you as a business leader. To sort of try and make those decisions, that sort of fail fast mentality.
Well, oh yeah, definitely.
You did this once before with a plumber, correct? Kind of, you started a business with him, and then was it a plumber?
It was an electrical businc
business.
Pretty close.
That right there. I mean, just noticing that you can take a service like a plumber or electrician or concrete specialist or whatever, use your advertising background to not only boost his profits, but boost yours as well by partnering with him and making it kind of like a synergistic kind of partnership to where you can help him and he can help you, because you don't necessarily want to be out changing electrical panels yourself. That's not your specialty. Your specialty is getting the business in. And I'm sure by doing that with him and then taking that knowledge that you learned in that process and moving it over to Swoop Scoop, that probably just took off 5 years of trial and error that you might have had to do, in that process. So just, I think everything that you do in this industry, it kind of just steps on top of everything else that you've done in the past and just makes your next project that much better. So.
Yeah, definitely building blocks and partnering with the right people, right? Because you don't want to partner with somebody that has the exact same skill set as you. Otherwise one of you is redundant and not necessary in the business. So I don't even know. I could barely change a light bulb. So there's no way I'm going to be out there changing somebody's panel or anything like that. So having the right partners with the right network and the right skill sets definitely key to if you want to grow fast anyways.
So one of the things I think is interesting too is just given, today's day and age or whatever, we've done a lot of shows recently on AI and the impact of AI on technology and all these kinds of things. But I think the underserved, or the thing that people aren't paying enough attention to, is the trades, basically, manual labor, service businesses, things like that are, AI might be really cool and probably does optimize your business. And I imagine software tools and things like that you're using in your business may be empowered with tools like that.
Yeah.
But AI is not going to go scoop your yard. Maybe one day we'll have a robot or something that'll do it for you. So that's a different story. But but what I think is interesting is that there's this period of time that exists right now where people are underserved in service industries. It's hard to find a plumber. It's hard to find a contractor. It's hard to find people like that. and, you know, good, reliable ones and things like that. And you've seen these different platforms like the Angie's Lists and Thumbtacks and things like that kind of take off for this reason. But the people who are actually running the businesses like what you're doing and being able to sort of build this operation seems like a really repeatable operation, regardless of the trade. You know, you could almost step into any trade and perform the same thing. Is that observation? I mean, like, what do you think for the future and things like this? I mean, you know, I don't think people are dropping a couple grand on a dog pooping, scooping caddy of some variety, you know, like robot that does their yard anytime soon.
Yeah, definitely not.
Ryan,
So,
you know,
I mean,
if they had one, you would have one.
Well, yeah, I would.
Yeah.
But I just don't think most people would have that.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, so what do you think? I mean, in terms of technology and just things like that, I mean, where so many people are feeling like, you know, American jobs are threatened and things like that because of technology in the future. I mean, it seems to me like somebody like you might have a bright outlook on that.
Yeah, definitely. Like, as far as like the poop scooping robot, I'm pretty confident we're probably at the end of the list of things for people to want to automate compared to the monetary value of some other industries. But I also do think it's something that's going to be really difficult to do because you need to be able to diagnose stuff. You have to be like hands-on. So especially in the trades, there's a lot that goes into it. So I don't really see AI kind of taking over those jobs anytime soon. With that in mind, though, we do use AI and other CRMs and different software tools to help make our business as efficient as possible. So I think not being afraid of that and kind of leaning into the technology and just doing whatever you can, even if it's something as simple as like automating the scheduling process or things like that. Just any kind of leg up that we can get on the competitors, because a lot of these trade guys too, they've been in business for years and years and years, and some of them don't even have like a website that we're competing against. So it makes it pretty easy to come in if you have like a marketing background and you partner with the right operator, just kind of mop up in a lot of markets.
That's really impressive, actually. The CRMs and the tools that you're using, you said you reversed engineered a couple of apps to kind of help with what you're doing. Can you maybe talk about that process? Do you have like a design or development background where you were able to do it yourself, or did you hire a team?
Yeah, when I was referring to that, we didn't build any software or anything like that. We took the software that existed for the pooper scooper industry, and we saw the features that the software offered, like the gate photos and the disinfectant and the way they did the routing. And we just basically built our business around how the software worked.
Okay. So you're using a third-party software, but for your business. Okay.
Yeah, but if you're coming into any industry, I mean, there's all sorts of different CRMs where you can kind of do that between your Service Titans and your House Call Pro and your Jobber or whatever. You can kind of see how to schedule stuff and what things are easily automatable. You can kind of build your business around that. Because definitely customer experience and like being fast is pretty important, especially when people are calling in or scheduling. You got to be fast.
Well, and I think what I like too about that approach is that it's not like, I think a lot of people would come in and almost try and do it the other way, which is I'm going to do business the way that I want to do. And how come I can't ever find a tool that does business the way I want to do it? You know, instead you almost are saving some steps, right? This is almost, you know, cutting to the front of the line or something, because it's like the business has already been designed for us. We just need to do what the software does, you know? And so I think that that's a really smart approach, or like kind of a different way of looking at things. Cause I think so many people, you know, have a vision in their mind that is more rigid, and it's like, this is what we do and how we do it. And it doesn't mean down the road you might find something to optimize or do in a new or different way or whatever. But in terms of getting off the ground, it's like somebody's already built it for you. So you might as well use it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and we're iterating and coming up with new ideas. So we're probably like the biggest or one of the biggest clients of this particular software provider. So anytime we want to make like a feature change or anything like that, they're way more likely to do it, because we're kind of leading the charge in the pooper scooper industry.
Well, and it's funny too, like, you know, you mentioned one of the things that was really successful for you is taking a picture of the gate, just sort of, I guess, indicate or prove that you were there, right? And and it was funny when I mentioned earlier, I was riding with my kid and I was talking to this. One of the things that popped in my head that he could do if he was going to do a business like this is he could weigh it. Right. And it sounds silly or whatever, but I'm just like, you know, but then you can report back a metric and say, oh, well, we cleaned 3.5 pounds of crap out of your yard this week. And then at the end of the month, oh, that's 12 pounds of crap that you didn't have to move. And then at the end of the year, you know, that's 144 pounds of you know, dog crap you didn't have to move this year.
Yeah. You could even take it a step further and say this is how much CO2 emissions or like whatever methane impact it had on the environment or whatever.
So I think you can do a lot of interesting things, just like little add-ons. So I thought that was an interesting observation, that just the simple fact of, you know, taking a picture it was such a big deal.
That's
And I can
hilarious.
even say, like, so we used to use a company, I won't say their name because I'm not going to say anything nice about them, to come out and spray the yard. You know, they would come out and do chemical sprays and all that kind of stuff, you know, or they're supposed to be doing that. And so, but they didn't do anything, even as simple as just send us an image, right? So we would come home and there'd be a sign on the door that said, hey, we came by or whatever, we build you. Well, one time, because I work from home most of the time. So one time these guys showed up and I was at home or said they showed up and I was at home and I got the text that said, hey, we're here servicing your yard. And I can look right out my office window and see the front, you know, the street out front. And I could see there was no truck here. And so we got the text saying, hey, we're at your house servicing and we're not. And so, so then I started checking our cameras, right? We had the Ring cameras and stuff like that. So we started checking the cameras and it was like, oh, I don't think they're coming. And so they're just billing us.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and we even had a couple times where they did show up, but like he sprayed the front yard and then he walked into the backyard. He just sat, flipped his phone for 5 minutes or whatever. And then he turned around and walked back out. You know, and then meanwhile, they're billing us $150 a week or whatever to come do this service.
Yeah.
And, you know, so, I mean, while I guess, you know, just the door photo isn't, you know, you're not doing a step tracker for these people and showing them where you've been. I guess the evidence or just saying, you know, look, we were at your place. And I mean, I guess in your case, if there's crap in the yard, there's crap in the yard. Like they will know.
It's pretty easy to tell if we don't show up.
Where, you know, in the case of the sprayers or whatever, you don't really know if they came or not. So, but I think the point there, or the reason why that's such an effective tool is trust, right? And you said that in your Google reviews, I think you said that this is one of the things that comes up more often than not.
Yeah, probably 15% of our Google reviews, they all mention the gate photo. So it's probably one of the most mentioned things consistently across all the reviews. So, and people love their dogs more than ever now, right? Dog spending's like way up. So nobody wants their dog to get let out and like run down the street. So, I mean, that's happened to me. I've had an HVAC guy come out to my house and leave the gate open and my dog got out. So it's definitely a pain point people want to avoid.
Well, Ryan, when you said, you know, an add-on is you could weigh it, my first thought is like you're going to be sending your kid out looking for Great Danes.
You moved 47 pounds of crap this week.
Yeah.
Well,
the only problem with the scale is that first week's always going to be a bad one because that's when they've let their yard build up for 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
And finally they go, oh, God, fine, just pay somebody to come do it. So after that, it's going to be pretty minuscule. So you don't want to give them the weight until week 2 or 3, I don't think.
Well, especially when the snow melts, it gets pretty nasty up in where we're at. So
the thought of add-ons is an interesting thought process because you think of like, you know, the Dollar Shave Clubs and the subscription-based models. It started with just a razor and like, you know, here you can get your add-on, your extra razors every month kind of thing. So that's where the subscription comes in. But now they got beard oil. Now they've got this. Now they've got, you know, MeUndies. All these different subscription models are out there now. Have you thought of like, once you've kind of got this network of customers, you know, let's do Christmas lights. We'll paint your address on the curb. You know, there's all these different things that people will go door to door and sell. Have you thought of doing add-ons on top of it, or are you just, I'm focusing on this. This is what's making money. No reason to, you know, ruin the perfect formula.
So yeah, as of right now, we haven't done any add-ons other than scooping. We got a little over 2,000 customers on our Pooper Scooper subscription right now. With that being said, it's not necessarily something that we won't do. The reason that we just stuck to Pooper Scooping is because it's hard enough to scale one service. So we just wanted to keep it as repeatable as possible. And the people we're hiring, they're not like 8,000 hour journeyman electricians. I mean, we're just hiring anybody, kids, right? I guess not anybody. We have a pretty refined process now, but being able to train, being able to scale up, being able to make sure the marketing's good so we can just copy paste, open up in another city. Was a lot simpler to do with just offering one service. With that being said, we'll probably look at doing some other things, maybe like odor control potentially, but the things that are specific to the service that we do. I don't want to get like super wide and like dilute the brand and kind of hurt our topical authority online.
Well, like my first thought is like, okay, everyone, you know, there's dog walking services, you know, like, hey, I'll do your yard. Let's take your dog for a walk while we're at it and put some food out for him. You know, because it's almost like the luxury hotel that puts the mint on your pillow. You know, it's like that extra step that they're doing that no one else is kind of not only keeps that that business that you have there, but that's how word of mouth gets out. And those little extra things like the gate pitcher and stuff like that doesn't really it's not really, you're doing that because you don't want to have a lawsuit for killing a dog and letting him out, but the customers love it because they get that sense of mind and that security. It's those little things that make the difference. So yeah, I find it interesting to think about where it can go and what it can expand into. But I love the fact that you're not running before you walk. You're just getting the basics done and then figure it out.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of options for what we can do in the future. But I mean, right now it's easier for me to go sell another 200-300 customers doing the exact same thing that we do than to add a whole nother service that we might only make an extra 10% on or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's maybe a good point that we should just kind of highlight too, is just sort of that discipline in business, being willing to forego that extra 10% or whatever to continue to make sure that, the 90% is being done well. You're not being spread too thin. People aren't showing up to work or whatever, you're not running into the common problems that might come from scaling.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Attention is definitely very important, even to the point now where I'm thinking about exiting my other businesses and just focusing entirely on the Pooper Scooper business because it has the best back end metrics. So it's definitely important to be focused and have attention. So if we want to get this to a $10 million plus company, it's going to take a lot more than it does to get to a couple $1 million company.
Sure.
So let's talk about defining your pricing structure and then also your market. Do you think the market you're in helped you scale quicker versus, I don't know, I would say like a Seattle market compared to a Salt Lake market? The Salt Lake market would do better with something like this just because of the accessibility to the homes and the congestion, I guess. Are you, does your pricing structure, does that based off of a per dog thing, or is it based off of the size of the yard? How did you figure that out?
Yeah, so our pricing structure is based on the number of dogs and then the yard size. We'll quote everybody that just has like a standard size yard, like a 1/8 acre or smaller. If it's above that, we'll have a different price for it. And then the service frequency that they want. So some people want us to come out twice a week, once every other week, or once a month. So we'll have different service frequencies. And it's kind of priced according to that. And we are actually in multiple locations. Our first location was in Spokane in North Idaho. Then we have another location in Seattle. So then we do adjust our pricing kind of accordingly based on the cost of living and those types of things.
So when you expand to a new market, what are some things? I mean, obviously you started in Spokane and you reached out to Seattle. Some of the things that you have to take into consideration when you do that is, A, do you have the right employees in place in this new market to be able to handle it and to be able to rely on them without acquiring these customers and then having problems. Maybe let's talk about that. And then maybe let's talk about, I had it. It was right on the tip of my tongue and I lost it. Let's talk about that one first and I'll think of the other one again.
So for our first expansion, we actually promoted our first scooper ever that worked with us. So they'd been with us for 2 years or so. So they knew all the systems. They knew everything. We were able to train them up on how to hire people. When we sent them over to Seattle, and it's been pretty successful with our first expansion. I think I've personally only been over there like once, so not a lot of issues. But we also try to give them as much chance for success as possible. So we try to centralize as many things in the business as possible. So all the customer onboarding, all the routing, all the billing, any customer complaints that come up, that's all handled at our call center in Spokane. So the field manager's only job is to make sure the service gets fulfilled, hire, fire, train people. That's all they're responsible for.
Well, let's dig a little deeper on hiring too. You mentioned earlier, trying to get the right people in place, and I love this idea of promotion from within. But I don't know, and maybe I'm making some generalizations here, so feel free to correct me. But it seems like when you're hiring people for this type of labor, you're probably going to get a lot of younger people, maybe people who might be sort of considered unemployable otherwise. This might be like labor work or something like that. So when you're doing your hiring, and you mentioned that you've got kind of a refined process at this point, what kinds of things are you looking for? This seems like it could be a very good entry level opportunity for somebody who might struggle to find work otherwise for whatever the reason. But then you also have to factor in, customer security and things like that. So I mean, I'm sure you're not hiring a bunch of felons off the street, but at the same time, you might have somebody that was once a felon looking for work. So how do you start to identify the right people for this kind of work and bring people in?
Yeah, so every time, even for the scooper position, we'll probably screen 100 resumes and get maybe 5 or 6 interviews. Then we'll do maybe 1 or 2 ride-alongs to hire one person. So we're actually pretty picky about who we hire. So we're looking for people that already have a job. We do background checks on everybody, so we're typically not hiring felons and things like that because we're putting people in people's homes. People that have outdoor work experience, people that have experience working labor jobs, things like that. But we kind of try to price out our wages, so we're a couple dollars an hour more than if you worked at like FedEx or Amazon or any of these other kind of entry-level labor jobs. So we're able to get a pretty big pool. I mean, we get hundreds of applications every time we post a job posting, and we pay pretty good for an entry-level job, 20, 25 bucks an hour. We offer benefits. We let people take their truck home. They can kind of start and stop whenever they want, Monday through Friday, as long as they get their route done. A lot of flexibility. So I wanted to just make it the best possible entry-level job because people are out scooping crap, whether it's raining or hailing or snowing or like whatever. So it's a pretty tough job to do day after day after day.
I was going to actually ask you about your pay structure. Lots of times when you do these, like mowing jobs, it's a piece rate kind of thing. Is there a reason you went hourly instead of a piece rate? I guess mainly that's probably because your employees are actually employees and not independent contractors. I'm sure that was tempting to go that route when you first started the business and eliminate some of the HR nightmare and the politics behind running a business. When you have independent contractors, it just kind of you just send them a check and don't worry about withholding any of that stuff. I'm sure by doing that, you have more control over the end product and you have less of the riffraff because they're actually employees versus independent contractors.
Yeah,
talk about that decision.
So when you're looking at this industry, right, we all kind of touched on it. You get started for a couple $100. So we need to do things that make us stand out. So that professionalism, like hiring the best people, having the best processes, having the best systems, that's all going to be really important. And to accomplish that, like all of our trucks have full wraps on it. If we were just hiring contractors, like we might not be able to do things like that. So I would say that's one thing that makes us stand out and also helps us scale. Because if we weren't doing those things, we were just some chuck in a truck, it might be more difficult. So, I mean, we've got a good brand, hundreds of reviews. All of our employees are vetted. We try to keep them on as long as possible because their efficiency definitely ramps up over between 3 and 6 months. People start generating a lot more revenue for the business. So it was kind of the decision from the beginning. We have played with contractors, especially in our peak season, Q1 when all the snow melts. We call it like peak poop pain season. So at one point we were hiring like a weekend team. So our full-time people would come, they'd drop the trucks on Friday, then we'd have a weekend team come. So we didn't have to buy twice as many trucks and do service on the weekends. But we've kind of got it dialed in now where our employees can handle everything, even in the busy time.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Well, and I think like kind of what Mike alluded to, you probably get a different quality or different caliber of employee when it's full-time employment versus, the contractor or the gig worker who's just looking to make a couple bucks on the weekend. So I imagine just in terms of, give a crap, for lack of a better term, you end up with people who are actually a little bit more invested in the business. And it seems like, at least you have a culture of sort of internal promotion, helping people grow in their positions, things like that. I mean, even though I guess I don't know what the top is, King Dookie or something. But like, I mean, as you move up the ranks, I guess you could become a field manager or an area manager. And imagine as you grow and start to scale the company, maybe regional manager, things like that. So there'd be a lot of opportunity for growth in the company.
Well, there's definitely some give and take there too, because we're starting to hire kind of that next layer of management, getting marketing manager, operations manager. So we want to find people in those kind of higher level positions that have already maybe done that for another company, and we can just bring them in and take that expertise. So we'll promote up as much as we can. But for some of those kind of higher tier roles, we definitely look to hire from outside of somebody that's already won the Super Bowl for another company, right? We just want to bring them into our company and have them run the same playbook.
Sure.
Have you thought about maybe doing this as a franchise? I just think of like your Seattle market, like the guy that went over there to help you out could almost be like a franchise owner and have his own crew underneath him and handle that market, and then expanding to other markets might be easier in that kind of approach versus doing it all in-house.
Yeah, we definitely thought about it. I have a list of 97 people that have reached out to me that wanted to buy a Swoop Scoop franchise.
Oh, wow.
So that it's very, very, very tempting. So that's always on the table. But on the other end, like we can get one of these locations started up for like 10 grand, and they're making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars within a couple of years. So it's kind of nice to just
Keep it.
have all that yourself too.
Sure.
But yeah, franchising is a whole different business, right? You're not opening locations. You're supporting people and making sure anybody can succeed, basically, no matter what happens. So.
Yeah. And I imagine with both, directions, there's pros and cons. But I kind of wanted to spend a little bit more time on this idea of scaling or growing the business. I mean, in the early days, as you sort of described here, you went from no customers to kind of a lot of customers pretty quickly. Like, so you guys were making decisions on the fly and you were moving very rapidly, things like that. I imagine you could do something similar in most cities as you start to expand. I mean, the good news is there's dogs everywhere, and you pick these cities like Portland, like Seattle, like anywhere that's got sort of, I guess, a yuppie crowd. And you're going to have plenty of puppies and dog parents and, all kinds of things like that, you're going to have, I mean, there's an endless supply of dogs out there. So, I wondered if you'd talk just sort of about, like, I guess, how you identify a market, some of the struggles or the growing pains that you found. And we can just use Seattle as an example, since that's your most recent expansion. But like, what are you finding that's different? I mean, just in, again, broad strokes here, but like the person who lives in Spokane, I think probably doesn't have a ton in common with the person that lives in Seattle. Now, this is, of course, super generalization. There's plenty of blue collar in Seattle also. But I mean, but generally speaking, there's a difference between rural Washington and urban Washington. So can you just talk about sort of some of the things you've encountered in scaling?
Yeah, so definitely the customer base is different in Seattle, as you mentioned. So people are willing to spend more money over in Seattle. So they typically make more money. So our cost to acquire a customer in Seattle is more, but the customers that sign up in Seattle, they actually stick quite a bit longer than the customers that sign up in Spokane for probably a lot of reasons that you just described. As far as scaling goes, our Seattle location, I think we're right under 2 years over there now, and we're about 600 accounts. We're in our busy season right now, so probably by the end of March, we'll be 750, 800 accounts versus about 950 in Spokane. So there's also a difference in weather too, because Spokane gets the snow, that gets the melt off. We have the extreme peak poop pain season where Seattle maybe doesn't get a lot of snow. But definitely during those colder months, that's the time that you want to expand in this industry, because when the weather's nasty outside, people don't want to be out scooping their poop. They'd rather just pay somebody to do it. So the more pain there is, the worse the weather. Typically, the better this industry does.
Yeah. I would just think too, also in Seattle, you've got more dogs eating natural diets, granola, things like this, so there's probably actually a higher volume of poop out there. So it may not actually work out.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. Only the yards are smaller, so that's nicer. There's obviously more traffic, so everything kind of works its way out. But Seattle market will definitely be a much bigger profit center for us once it gets more mature.
Well, it seems too, to your point about people making more money, or just sort of the difference in, the economy of an area. In Seattle, you've got a lot of like working people who live in apartments and have dogs, but, so they have a community space or something like that. And I think that this is one of the areas you've started to scale into also, which is commercial work. And so beyond just, grabbing a individual who lives in an apartment, instead you're grabbing the apartment complex. Can you talk at all about that? Is that something you guys are going to be focusing energy on? And what does that look like relative to just sort of, one-off relationships with your customers?
Yeah. Well, the commercial side of the business, it's almost a completely different business, right? The way you acquire customers is totally different. I can't just click a couple buttons on my Facebook ads and get 100 signups. We have to actually go out and build relationships with property managers and things like that. So the process is entirely different, but we do work with apartment complexes, HOAs, things like that. We'll actually install the dog waste stations. We'll maintenance them. We'll come out and swap out the bags once a week or whatever frequency they want. And then we'll also do like common area cleanup. So we'll come clean up whatever their courtyard that dogs are out in. We'll scoop up all the poop, and we'll also pick up all the garbage while we're out there. The way we price that out is we actually just measure it out by the square foot. So one scooper can do about an acre per hour. So we'll just put whatever hourly rate we want to make times how many acres we're cleaning. And that's kind of how we run that side of the business. So It's totally different. It's probably less than 5% of our business right now, honestly, but we just haven't put a lot of time into it.
Seems like the sales cycle would be quite a bit longer. You've got to go through a process instead of just, do I want this or don't? Here's my credit card, that kind of thing. So yeah, it definitely seems like it'd be a little different.
Yeah,
but it does seem like there's a good opportunity.
Oh yeah. I mean, we get contracts for whatever, 20, 30, 40, 50 grand a year, scoop and poop at an apartment complex. So not that bad of a gig once you get them. So once you get into a couple, they'll just start referring you to others. I think we have like 3 apartment complexes that are literally right next to each other. We're making whatever, $5 grand between the 3 of them.
Yeah, and I suspect in like places like Seattle, bigger markets like that, where you've got one, developer, let's say, that's done, whatever, 50 properties. You could probably start to work your way into these things where you might be able to capitalize a little bit on their volume.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, and providing the bags and the actual stations for that, it's not only a service that you can bill for, but it's also a marketing tool. Like, because I'm sure you're acquiring your bags and putting your logo on that box or whatever, just like your truck, people will see it and maybe, take a picture of it and take your service home with them.
Yeah, definitely.
That's one of those add-ons, the bag. But yeah, I'm so intrigued with your business because it's this thing that is so obvious, but no one has done, like, I'm sure other people have done it, but no one has like capitalized on it like you. And I'm really excited to see, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where your business will be and what markets you're in, and how well off everything's going for you, because it's such a common need that no one just really wants to do. And you just said, screw it, I'll go do it.
Yeah.
And it's paying off.
And I'd like to maybe just dovetail off that idea, which is, sort of like we were talking about at the top, which is I exposed my 14-year-old to this, and it seems infinitely doable for a 14-year-old kid to go do something like this. But what are I guess, sort of the unseen things, or maybe the things you didn't expect? Because you said you partnered with an operator, so he maybe had some of the experience and saved you some of the drama. But is there anything that you have sort of uncovered in building this thing that we're like, oh my God, I can't believe this thing is so challenging, or this thing is an issue that we just didn't even see coming?
I'd say probably just the biggest thing is just the repetitive motion kind of injuries that you can get if you don't have the right equipment. But other than that, like, everything was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be honest. One concern a lot of people have is like dog bites. That's something that almost never happens. Like dogs getting left out, like that almost never happens. And really, if you're just one person, you can handle between 125 to 150 accounts by yourself, making $100 a pop with not very many expenses. So it's a pretty appealing business for a lot of people that can come in and make 6 figures. Even in high school, if you got 100 accounts, you could be making 10 grand a month.
Yeah. No. What about like things? I think I heard a story about you guys had maybe like 3 or 4 trucks totaled in a weekend or something.
Yeah.
Like, how do you guys overcome those kinds of issues? Obviously, those are your black swan events, right? It's not happening all the time, but when those sorts of things arise, the struggles of being a bigger business, how do you sort of rise to the occasion and solve those problems?
Yeah. Well, you just do what you got to do. So I think I just went out and bought 4 more trucks. That's what we did. And then obviously, like, looking at how that happened, like who we're hiring, installing dash cams, doing like driver monitoring, so that we make that part of the kind of the monthly review process with their scoopers now, how they're actually driving. So I don't think we've had any accidents since that happened, but yeah, we had like 4 within like a month. During our busy season.
Those are things that can kill a business, though. Like if you were still in the early days, your first month, and something like that happened, that overhead, if you didn't have the capital to replace it and then pay the increased insurance, that could put a business under. And stuff like that are the learning lessons that, get you to that next step. If you were a semi truck driver for a company and you got in an accident like that, that's a major thing. A little pickup truck, that's an entirely different story. But like that type of stuff, those are the hurdles that set you apart. And then once you get over them, you're a better person in business because of it. So, yeah, that's scary. As a business owner, that would, putting that risk and liability in someone else's hands, and then having to account for it when it happens. Most people stay out of business for stuff like that. They want their
Yeah, I know when that
9 to
happened,
5
I was like, ugh, maybe I should do something different. But it ended up working out. Nobody got hurt, which was the most important thing, obviously.
Yeah.
But even like in Seattle, like we had a car breakdown, and we just literally went and just rented one for however long it took to fix it. So there's always usually a creative solution that you can come up with, but it's just about being resourceful when the time comes.
One of the kind of maybe last things to get into here is just talking a little bit about your marketing. You mentioned earlier being able to just sort of double click on your Facebook ads and get some things going. Is there anything like, I don't know, sort of the stuff you see traditional businesses doing, which is, I don't know, community service, maybe you go out and clean a park before the Easter egg hunt or something? Like, I mean, are there things that you guys are doing in the community to try and drive new business and that kind of thing? Or is it all just electronic marketing?
Yeah, we actually rolled out a new program this year. It's like the Swoop Gives Back program or something. So we're donating at least $1,000 to a nonprofit every single month. And then we'll work with them and maybe come up with like a promo code. So if somebody signs up with the Pet Savers code, we'll donate an extra $50 for every customer that signs up like that. And we recently partnered with like a Meals on Wheels to help deliver dog food, because a lot of the elderly people, they were choosing between giving their meals to their pets versus getting dog food. So that's something that we started doing the last couple of months as well. So something we're definitely developing. When we're first starting off, obviously the cash flow is tight. We got to buy all these trucks and do all that kind of stuff. But we're getting to the point now where we can start giving back and be more active in the community.
That's an add-on. Bringing food to the house, that's an add-on.
Yeah, well, and those are, cool opportunities. It's maybe a little bit more traditional media, but like those are great ways to get in the paper or get in the local news and things like that and earn that free media. So it's, it's an interesting approach back to sort of our discussion earlier about sort of hands-on and real life experiences versus doing things that are totally digital. So that's cool. Cause those both seem like, pretty rewarding programs that you're being a part of. And in both cases, probably that goodwill would go a long way for developing a business like this or developing sort of that, I guess, community-wide trust.
Yeah. And just really developing the brand. Like, what kind of brand do we want to be, right? Because anybody can get into the industry. So having a strong brand that associates with the right stuff and giving back and like being something that people want to associate with is going to carry a lot more weight in the future as more people get into the industry.
Well, and it seems like high priority for this kind of business in general is trust. Like I can't beat on it enough. It's the whole thing really is trust. Do I trust you to come to my house? Do I trust you to be in my yard? Do I trust you around my animals? Do I, et cetera. And so, so I have to imagine that anything you can do to sort of hedge that, where you can really demonstrate that we're trustworthy people would probably be great for a business like this.
Yep. Uniforms, background checks, all that kind of stuff. Super important. Truck wraps.
So weird last question from me. Do you just throw the waste in their personal garbage can, or do you guys take it and dispose of it?
So our first location, I wanted to be as premium as possible with everything that we did. So we took the waste. We got trash cans all over the place. I think last year we had like a 20-yard dumpster that they'd come pick up a couple times a week. So we had to buy trucks and all that kind of stuff. All our new locations, like our Seattle location, we just run with like little Chevy Sparks. I get like 30, 40 miles to the gallon. And we just double bag the waste, put in the customer's trash can, and nobody seems to care. And it saves us a ton of money.
Oh, I'm sure. I was just thinking like just the quantity of what, like you're going to a fertilizer supply company and like, here, pay me for this.
Yeah, somebody's got to get real innovative on what to do with this stuff.
If you guys want a bunch of dog crap,
I got a hookup.
Yeah.
So last thing I'd like to touch on before we part ways is I think at least semi-recently you've spun up your Poop Scoop Millionaire course or education platform. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that is and how people can get involved?
So I built a community called the Poop Scoop Millionaire. It's on School. It's Hormozy's new platform. The reason I did that is I did one other podcast maybe a year ago, and there's not a lot of pooper scoopers our size, and I just had a ton of people reach out wanting one-on-one coaching with me. I didn't really want to do it, so I was just like, okay, I'll talk to you for whatever, $1,500, and probably made like 20 grand in like 6 weeks. And I was like, okay, I don't really want to keep one-on-one coaching, so We basically just developed this program that takes you from how to get started, tells you what cool tools to use, how to get clients, all that kind of stuff. So we have courses there. And then we brought in other people from the industry. So we have like weekly live trainings with people. And then one thing I really like about the group being able to bring a whole network of people together is I can go out and negotiate like national discounts on things like truck wraps or software. So it actually helps basically everybody in the industry, and it more than covers the cost of the membership, which is kind of a cool thing. And yeah, it's been pretty crazy. We got 650 members in there. We're a top 1% community on the whole platform. I think we're ranked number 4 in business out of like tens of thousands of people. So
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's a whole different business.
It's interesting too, and maybe this is just sort of your business philosophy, and so maybe we can just kind of finish with this. But it's just, I mean, you have been, I've seen other interviews, and obviously in this interview, you're very forthcoming with stuff about your business and what you're doing, and it's like you're not really hiding the ball too much. You're not being a gatekeeper as it pertains to the the things you use or the tools or your processes. Really, is that on purpose, in that you just feel sort of like philosophically your mode of doing business is like, I can do this, you can do this, we can all do this? Or because it doesn't seem like the alternative is true, which is that you're just hyper competitive and it's like, get out of my town, we're the scoopers in town, and it's like, yeah. So I mean, is it just your personality, or like what made you make the decision to be so sort of open and forthcoming?
Yeah, well, I definitely know the more you help people, like the more you give, the more you get, kind of a thing. So that was always a factor. As far as like building competition for myself, I'm actually pretty hyper competitive. But I just know that scooping dog poop, it's not really rocket science, right? Yeah. So people are going to figure out this stuff eventually. It's really the brand and it's the execution that is what's going to win at the end of the day. And so we've just been focusing on building up our brand and building up a rock solid team. So if somebody wants to try to start another one in Spokane, they can try, but we're probably going to smash them.
So unless they happen to be club members, or members of the community,
we'll
give them a high five.
I'll take it easy. I'll take it a little.
We'll
easy.
Hire you away.
Yeah, we'll buy their route if it doesn't work out. So
that's what I was going to say. Is like that community is building your employee base. Like if you got 10 people from Philadelphia reaching out to inquire about your business practices, now you can be like, hey, I got 10 people there, let's go to that market and get something going. So you're doing all the right things, and I'm really impressed with what you got going on.
Thank you. I guess another consideration too is growing through acquisitions. There just wasn't any companies that were worth acquiring. So if we want to go to Portland, if somebody's got like 1,000 customers, then I'd be interested. But if they got like 75, it's not really worth their time, right? Yeah. So if we're able to build up these people, it opens up opportunities if we want to maybe franchise, if we want to do a big roll up in the future. So there's definitely options by helping people out.
And I imagine, and you can probably speak to it, but I imagine there is quite a bit of range like in this business, right? I mean, because you probably got your range of high school students that are just trying to make a few bucks, like probably not that many people taking it super seriously. I mean, I'm sure there are other organizations like yours out there, but I mean, I imagine that your run of the mill Poop Scooper, that has 75 customers or something, it's probably just like a solo operator doing his thing, trying to make a few bucks.
Yeah, it's a lot of people that basically just want to be able to quit their job. So if you get 50 to 75 customers, that replaces most people's full-time income. So that's a part-time schedule. So not a bad gig for a lot of people that want to be solo operators. But yeah, it's definitely rare. The companies that are doing at least $1 million, there's probably less than 5 that I know of.
Yeah. Well, just hear me out here. Another business idea. What you got to do is you got to get the yard crew guys, like the mowers and stuff, on your same route so they follow behind you. And
we do that.
Way, the yards. You already do that?
Yeah, we already do that.
Oh my gosh!
Well, that's better than my suggestion. I was going to say cat scooping, but I guess it kind of takes care of itself. So. Anyway, cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, William. I really appreciate your time. Where can people go to learn more about either your business, maybe you as an individual, make a connection, or learn more about the business?
So if people want to learn more about me, probably the YouTube channel is the best place to go. If you want to learn more about the business, it's just YouTube / Scoop If you want to actually talk to me, you can check out the Poop Scoop Millionaire community. If you just Google Poop Scoop Millionaire on School, SKOOL, you'll be able to join the community, shoot me a direct message. Please do not try to call into the Swoop Scoop office. It's impossible to get a hold of me. We get lots of people calling in, but yeah, those are the best ways to get a hold of me. Just drop a message on our YouTube channel or join the Poop Scoop Millionaire community, and I can help you get started or answer whatever questions you have about the industry.
Sweet.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much. Like I said, I really enjoyed this conversation. It's been enlightening, and wish you the best.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, tons of great information here, man. Thanks so much. And thanks to everybody who tunes into the show this week and every week. And we'll see you guys next time.
It is a perfect day. Bang, dong, ding, dong, ding, dong, ding, dong, ding, dong, ding.